Hello, this is Serrano Keith Baldia with Texas Justice Review. Today we're filing a judicial complaint in the State Judicial Board of Conduct against Judge Staci Williams. I think she's in District Court 101. And here's what we're filing against her. One of the things that happened in my case, and this is a good thing, it's not a bad thing when I talk about the judicial system. The complaint against Judge Staci Williams, and I hope this woman is removed from office, from the judicial system. I know that the Democratic Party in Dallas, Texas, she's not part of it. I know they don't like her. I know when they gather with their judges, she's not one that is invited to their events. And as you can see, it's with good reasons. And I'm going to explain some of the reasons, but then I'm going to come back and I'm going to outline exactly what I filed with the State Judicial Board of Conduct in Texas. But today, I just want to do a brief overview of why it is necessary when a judge refuses to perform their duties and they cause damage. It's important that we find out all the places that we can take action against these judges. Now, the thing about the State Judicial Board of Conduct is that they were chosen by the Supreme Court of Texas. Is it the Supreme Court or the Superior Court? One of the high courts. The High Court of Texas created the Judicial Board of Conduct. The Judicial Board of Conduct is not all good. It's not, I've seen judges that should have been removed immediately, and they issue an order of slap on the wrist. And that's Judge Kim Cook. We're going to get to her soon. So here's what we're doing against Staci Williams. This is a complaint. When I sued my ex and I sued her attorney separately. The attorney for fraud and lying and deceiving and harassment and negligence and a whole bunch of other stuff. Everything that was applicable by law to this particular attorney, Victoria G. Warner from Rowlett, 30 years experience, and she used that experience to manipulate the law because she thought I was pro se. And because I'm pro se, I'm not fully aware of the judicial system, the rules of the courts and things like that, judicial conduct. But I used to be a publisher of a newspaper, so I don't really let things go past. So I found out all the things she did illegal in the divorce case, and I went to a divorce court. Doesn't really handle fraud and all these other stuff. You have to go to district court. So I went to district court and I filed a tort claim of fraud. So it went to Judge Staci Williams. And from the beginning, what the attorney did is she never answered my complaint. She gave a 2-page letter that another judge, Maria Estevez, says was not appropriate to file. So if Judge Staci Williams overrode that, she went against another judge. So she knew she couldn't. We had a bunch of hearings, and Victoria Warner tried to dismiss the case because she said she has immunity, but you don't get immunity for fraud. And the legal system is not complex. If you commit fraud, there's no immunity. If you commit a crime during your tenure or your actions, you can't say, I commit this crime while I was representing my client, so therefore I'm immune from it. The law does not recognize that. A crime is a crime, a fraud is a fraud, and civil cases, you can't really, candy coat that. So here's what I'm filing against Judge Staci Williams. When my ex had a order, there's a Judge Michael Snipes. He's a criminal assignment judge. Now, if you're an attorney and someone comes to you and you do family law and it says, hey, I got a criminal case, what do? I don't take criminal cases, but I'll refer you. If you're a criminal judge and somebody comes to you and say, I have a family court case, they say, well, we don't do family court cases. We're not experienced in that. It will be unjust to take a case strictly for money just because, you can get money out of the person, and you don't do family law, you don't do criminal law, but your family. You can't take those cases. Yet the Chief Judge, Ray Williams, assigned Michael Snipes to my ex's divorce case, and he never does, he doesn't do family court. And he's getting cases from he's a what do you call him? He's an extremist liberal judge. And I have to put the word extremist in there because there are liberal judges that I like. You know, they do some good. They're Democrats and they do some good and I like them. I take photos with them, you can see, because I think they can be trusted. But this is a liberal judge who doesn't do family court judge. If you check Michael Snipes on the Bar Association, and he can't change it now because I already copied it down, he doesn't do family law. He only does government and politics or something like that. So I pulled that down and realized, well, he doesn't do family law. So I had a conflict with him. In the beginning of the conflict, I told him to recuse himself if he keep dragging me back into court. And then, so he started signing all kind of illegal orders from my ex. Illegal. So I held a motion to recuse him, and his buddy Ray Wheelers, who is a fraudulent Republican, put him back, denied my motion. Again, he did some illegal stuff, and I had him recused from the case. And we'll get to Staci Williams in a second, but I'm setting a groundwork here. So he illegally came back on the case by Kim Cook. She was a judge assigned to put him back. No jurisdiction to do so. So he started making a series of illegal orders for my ex to hide money, and I reported that. Judge Staci Williams, what they're doing was all illegal. So I went to Judge Staci Williams and I told her, I said, look, I filed a bunch of motions with her and she kept overlooking the motions. And I said, Judge, come on. If my ex go to Michael Snipes and within hours, he just signed something for her, no hearing. He's just signed it, or he signed it, and there's a hearing in 2 days. It takes me a very long time to get a hearing with Judge Staci Williams. And every time I go to her clerks are not very, there's one clerk that's very nice. But the rest of them are just putting stuff off. We can't do this. We cannot, the judge is not available. Then where is she? And I know she doesn't have a heavy caseload. So anyway, I went to her on July 31st, which is a pivotal moment. And I said, look, I appeal this case, right? The family case that you have a jurisdiction over the property, the home, the fraud, everything. And it's in the appeals court, and they opened up the case back in July. The decree was on November 30th. The case was reopened on July 12th, I think. And when they reopened the case, I went back to Judge Staci Williams and said, they can't do this. And they're trying to seize the house. Can you put a stay on the seizing the house and selling it? Because it's in your case. You have jurisdiction over the fraud on the house. Because the fraud was they hid $1.2 million. This corrupt judge, Michael Snipes, signed an order to hide money. And he told me I cannot audit my ex and find the money. So I went and report all this to Judge Staci Williams. This is all your jurisdiction. This is the fraud. This is the fraud that my ex did and the attorneys did, and they signed all this stuff. That's what I sued for. And by hiding the $1.2 million, I could have gotten $600,000. The equity is only $80,000. I could have paid her 4 times for that, and none of this would have happened. So the fraud is directly connected to the house. Had I gotten not being defrauded of that money, I would have been able to buy the house. So she couldn't understand this. And you're a judge? And anyway, so finally, July 31st, when they wanted to evict me, they got an order to evict me. And I went to her and I said, they can't evict me, Your Honor, because this judge from that house is in your case. So she signed an order. And I'm going to try to see if I could put that order up so you can see it. Here's it on the screen. So here is the order that she signed. I'm going to give you a chance, take a look at it. You can pause the camera, the video. So the order said on July 31st of July 2025, the court considered Plaintiff Keith Serrano Balio's valid application for temporary restraining order. The court found a restraining order. Just remember that, this is hers. The court found that the plaintiff has established the element required by Texas RCP 680 and is entitled to temporary relief. This was signed on July 1st, 2025. It is therefore ordered that defendant Victoria Warner, her agents, clients, Stacy Balio, my ex, title companies, which is anyone that wants to sell this house, and all persons acting in conceit and enjoined until enjoined means they can't, until further from executing, recording, or filing any deed, transfer, lien, encumbers affecting the property, and I'm not going to list the property, marketing, showing, or negotiating the sale of this property, applying for, obtaining, or enforcing any writ of possession or any proceed to evict plaintiff, that is me, entering the property, changing the locks, and interrupting utilities, enforcing any contempt by the receiver or any other order. So the order that Judge Snipes in family court did, this order that in June 12th, I think, this order void trumps that order under her district court authority. That's family court. They only do distribution of property. They only do distribution of pets and children and all that kind of stuff. This is the higher court, a more powerful court, district court, and it's fraud. It's a tort claim. This is the order that she signed on July 31st. The very next day, my ex went with her attorneys and they violated this court order. They violated by going back to the other judge, and instead of him saying, Michael Snipes saying, well, look, if the judge signs an order that you can't evict him and you can't do all these things, then I can't supersede her order. She signed an order in her jurisdiction, and this judge is supposed to say that. But because he had a bias and prejudice for me, he didn't care. They filed it. And once they filed it, the woman, Whitney Green, when I sent her a copy of this, because their hearing was the next day, August 1st. And I sent this to them. And she goes, despite that, we're going to go ahead with the hearing anyway. We're going to violate her order, and we don't care. So they filed it before Snipes. So if they got this, they have their own responsibility not to do this, but they did it anyway. And so they had the hearing, and they got an order to arrest me, put me in jail, and hold me in contempt of violating the June 12th order. Well, I have an order telling me I don't listen to your order anymore. I have an order telling me that you can't arrest me, you can't do a possession, you can't file a writ, you can't hold me in contempt. I have a judge's order, Judge Staci Williams in district court, telling you not to do that. They still went and did it the next day. And then but they didn't do anything. They just got it from Michael Snipes. But then this expired in 13 days. So then on the 13th, we went back before Judge Williams, and I told her what they did. And she said, you know what, I'm going to extend it. So she did the right thing. So here's the extension. Actually, I'm going to lift this up. This is her extension of that court order. Let's see, it's too much glare. So here's the extension of that court order. Let's see if I don't get it. If you can pause the video, you can read it. And here's what it says. It says, 101 Judicial District Court, on this day, again, on the 13th, which is she's extending her court order not to evict me, not to violate her court order. She said, on this day, the court considered plaintiff's emergency combined motion after reviewing the pleadings established and arguments, exhibits and arguments, because we had oral arguments. The court finds this. On July 31st, 2025, TRO is valid and was in effect at all relevant times. All relevant times. So they could not have gone the next day and violated a court order and not be held in contempt. The bankruptcy automatic stay concerning the property under LL 11 USC 362 was in effect on June 25th to July 23rd. So she's concurring that even she has a court order, and the bankruptcy automatic stay also says you can't take this property. So her order can't take it. The bankruptcy law can't take it as well. My ex couldn't take it. And then she said, now they filed a motion, and their motion was to her. They came from family court to this court and filed a motion for Judge Staci Williams to rescind a restraining order that she signed on July 31st. They said to her, listen, can you rescind this? Because if she didn't rescind it, it means it stayed and they're in contempt. She didn't. Here's what she said. On August 31st, the August 31st emergency motion to dissolve the TRO is denied. So she denied them their their motion to dismiss her TRO, right? And then she said this is extended until August 27th. So that restraining order went from July 31st to August 27th. And during that time, on the very same day, on August 13th, my ex's attorney, Whitney Green from Carrington and Coleman, went down to the clerk and filed for the constable to remove me against this restraining order. And I went back to Judge Staci Williams and I said, this is illegal. So I'm going to give you the case number and you'll see all my filings. They violated the state order, void the writ of possession because it violates your court order. Voids this, judge. It's automatically voided by your restraining or by your order. You cannot let them take the property if it violates your court order. So I filed a motion for Judge Staci Williams to void the writ because it violated your order. Now, if they had gone back to Michael Snipes, this criminal court guy in family court, he would have signed it in a second. Your order to this is voided because it violated a court order. But she didn't do any of that. She sat down. We had a hearing after hearing. There was a motion by the attorney to dismiss the case. It was denied because you don't get immunity. And then there was countless things I was filing for her to act on, and she didn't. She kept, when me and Miss Warner, who was the attorney that I sued, we had hearings, guess who showed up? Victoria Warner was sending out emails and communication to the family judges, the family lawyers, to come and defend her. And they would show up. And I would say, Judge, Your Honor, come on, they can't be here. They didn't file a notice of appearance. And yet she let them speak. And they are interrupting the case. They are disrupting the case. It's a family court case. Send it back to family court. And they kept pressuring her over and over again. Every hearing with me and the defendant, these family court attorney, Judge Williams, allowed to come into the case and keep this. And they were doing the other attorney that I had the case with, she's just silent. She's not saying anything. But the whole argument was made by my ex's family court lawyers. And they don't have any appearance. And so this violates an entire whole rule. I think it's 308 or 803 that you have, if you want to make an argument with a case, if you want to enter the case as an attorney, you have to file a notice of appearance, or you have a witness or something like that. None of that. She just let them violate my lawsuit. As a plaintiff, they were just making all kinds of arguments. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And here's how they got away with it. Oh, we're just here to observe. We're attending the Zoom call. I contacted Judge Williams' clerk and I asked them, did you notify these attorneys in family court that we had a Zoom call this day? And they said, no, we didn't. We only notified you and the defendant, Victoria Warner. So how are they showing up consistently on the Zoom call, and why are you allowing them on the Zoom call if they're not Victoria Warner's attorney? And that was Staci Williams continued to let happen. Every single meeting I had with Victoria Warner, these attorneys came and represented her without filing a notice of appearance. So I wanted to lay that foundation for you, and you can go look at this case yourself. You'll see all the things I filed to protect my home and to protect my case and to protect my property and my rights. The case number is DC-24-20167. It is Keith Serrano Baldi versus Victoria G. Warner. And you'll see all the things that I filed over and over again, that they violated your court order, Judge. You can't let them sell my house when you told them not to. It's a serious issue when you violate, you're in contempt of a judge's order. They're in contempt of everything this judge is doing. And one of the things that concerned me is when they showed up to the meeting, Whitney Green and Anna Long from Carrington and Coleman, the first thing out of her mouth was, oh, I love you guys. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is a serious issue. They're talking about a love fest you got going on. And anyway, so here are the things that we're filing now that we set that foundation. Oh, some of the things that I filed is proposed order for the temporary restraining order, direction of property and assets and estate. I also filed, let's see if I can read some of the things. This is just before she did her transfer. She recused herself instead of doing her job. I filed a notice of violation and request for enforcement of the July 31st temporary restraining order, a proposed order for the violation. I filed an emergency motion when they were trying to seize the house, emergency motion for enforcement and to stop on the unlawful sale. She did nothing. All these orders are still sitting there. When you file a motion, you file an order, and they're just sitting there. Proposed order to enforce the unlawful sale, proposed order for judgment, proposed order granting plaintiff's verified motion to reinstate after dismissal of one prosecution. That's when I didn't show up for the hearing. Actually, I was late, and she just denied it. So I filed a motion to reinstate it. And anyway, there's a whole bunch of TROs that I filed and applications that I filed. And Judge Staci Williams, she just sat back and did nothing. Nothing. So now that I set that foundation after 20 minutes, here's what we're filing. Here's what I'm filing. Let's see. Okay, here we go. All right. So my complaint against Judge Staci Williams is this, to the State Judicial Board of Conduct. Failure to enforce court order causing irreparable harm. They didn't just take the house and put it on the market. And there's a lis pendens that they can't sell the house until this case is resolved. This case has now been transferred to Judge Emily Talbowski after Judge Williams recused herself instead of doing her job. Because of her denying even my temporary injunction until the case is resolved, they took all my property and sold it and junked it. But July 31st, this is actual complaint. But July 31st and August 14th order specifically prohibit eviction and sale. She was notified of the violation through my contempt motions. Despite this, she took no action while they evicted me and sold and destroyed all my property. The canon rule B3B2, duty to fulfill, duty to be faithful to the law and maintain competence. Canon rule B3B8, duty to take appropriate action when receiving information indicating substantial likelihood that a lawyer was violating legal ethical rules, and this case is against the lawyer. Refusal to rule on contempt motions. I filed countless contempt motions documenting violations of her order. She ignored them all while the violation continued. This is the failure to perform mandatory judicial duties. Texas Government Code 21.001. Judge has a duty to decide matters before them. She didn't. She just ignored it. Denial of default judgment. I had a default judgment since the start of the case. She refused to address or rule on it. If properly obtained, refusing to enforce a default judgment without legal basis is a serious issue. Texas Rules of Civil Procedure 239 governs default. A pattern of delayed and trial cancellation. She set a trial for July 25th, ignored that trial. Set a trial for April 2026, then recused before it could happen. This prevented me from even getting my fraud case heard. Canon Rule B38, duty to dispose of all judicial matters promptly and effectively. Refusal to issue injunction to stop sale. I specifically requested an injunction to hold a sale pending trial. This was necessary to preserve the subject matter of the litigation of my home, that is in the fraud case. Her refusal, while they were actively violating her TRO, allowed irreparable harm. This appeared to be an abandonment of judicial duties. So she's going to be investigated for all these things. And boy, if you go on that page, just Google search cases, Dallas County case search, and you'll get onto the website and you look down, it'll tell you where to search for the case, and you'll find this case. You'll see all these things that I filed, and she just ignored them and then recused herself. After she spoke, said she was going to speak to Judge Michael Snipes, which influenced her. Just remember, he's a senior judge, and a senior judge can influence another judge. Allowing complete nullification of her orders. Her orders meant nothing in practice. She watched her own court order be violated, did nothing, and then recused herself. This undermines the entire judicial system. The patentist creates. What makes this especially serious in the patent, issued a protective order on July 31st and August 14th. Defense immediately violated them on August 1st and August 13th. I filed contempt motion documenting the violation. She ignored all contempt motions. Defendants evicted me, sold my property. The fraud case subject matter that is part of her case. She still did nothing. She failed to hold scheduled trial. She scheduled a new trial. Then she recused before that trial, leaving case unresolved. Now these are just bullet points right now, and that's why they're sounding like this. This patent suggests either bias towards the defendant, despite recusal, ordering claim, the recusal. Now when she recused herself, she says there was no bias. But this shows she is biased. And I'm going to read her recusal in a second, stating she's not biased. Failing to have her judicial responsibility, coordinating with family court to undermine my case. Those attorneys should have never been on my case, discussing and fighting and defending Warner and defending my ex to take the case and put it back into family court. A deliberate delay until property was gone. And you have to go into the website and you'll see the whole case and how she consistently delayed my motions. I had orders after orders after orders, and she delayed all of them. So when the State Judicial Board of Conduct takes the entire case and they start looking, why did she act? Why didn't she act? Why did she allow them to violate the order? You had a motion, you had an order, you had a motion, you had an order, you had a motion, and you had an order, and she did nothing on these motions and she order until the harm was done. What to emphasize, this is what I'm going to emphasize in my complaint and in my crucial point. She issued orders. I proved that they were violated. She did nothing, and I lost everything. This is my core issue. Her inaction directly caused me harm, and here's the timeline. There's a lot of timeline. There's so many orders that I couldn't list them here, but I'm just going to tell you about the main ones. But when I do the actual complaint against her to the State Judicial Board of Conduct, I'm going to list all the dates and everything I filed that she ignored. And now Judge Talbusky is following suit here, because she's also sitting on this. July 31st, she issued a temporary restraining order. On August 1st, the defendant violated the family court order. On August 13th, issued an extension of the order. On August 13th, the defendants get a contempt eviction order. And when was I evicted? October 13th, I was evicted. November 13th, everything was sold. multiple contempt motion filed, all ignored, recusal after damage is done before trial. Two scheduled trials was never happened. One she just let pass, and the other she just decided I'm not going to do a trial. And I never got my day in court. I had default judgments. I had 2 default judgments on this case, and she ignored both of them. She refused to rule on it, to enforce it. And here's some additional legal complaints I'm going to give to the Judicial Board of Conduct on her, Judge Staci Williams. Texas Judicial Code 21.001, a judge of a court shall regularly hold court, dispose of the business of the court in a timely manner. You got to see what she did. They're going to see it. She violated both, didn't hold a July trial, 2012 trial, and didn't dispose of your contempt motion and my restraining order. Texas Code of Judicial Conduct, this is where the Judicial Board really is going to get her. 3B5, a judge shall perform judicial duties without bias and prejudice. She's saying she doesn't have any bias and prejudice, but she's loving the attorneys from family court. She's ignoring me. She's consistently ignoring me, giving them place to obstruct the case. I didn't put the obstruction in here yet. There's a bunch of other things I've had. Instruction, allowing them to violate the rules of procedure, to obstruct the case. There's rules of procedures that's not in here yet. I'm gonna have to add that. And here's my summary, is that summary of harm, Judge Williams issued orders protecting my home, then did nothing while the defendants violated those orders, evicted me, and sold and destroyed my property. She then recused before trial, preventing any remedy, and failed to hold her previous trial. Violation, contempt of motion, her inaction with specific dates, failure to enforce her own order, canon rule. Yeah, this is the outline here. Failure to enforce her own order, canon rule B. If you're filing something against a judge, you have to look up the canon law. And the State Judicial Board of Conduct has canon rules, and that's what they go by. That's their law that the Supreme Court in Texas gave them. Failure to enforce her own orders, canon rule B, 3B2, 3B8. Failure to rule on contempt motions, government code 21.001. Failure to hold scheduled trials. You have to have a certain, the law gives family court to have a trial within 6 months. I think it gives civil court a year and something. But you have to have, you can't delay trials without probable cause, things like that. You have too many case loads. You have to expedite those cases. And she didn't do that. She just sat there. Failure to rule on the default judgment. A pattern of suggesting bias. Boy, they're going to get on that one. Improper ex parte communication with Judge Snipes. When she did, this was her thing. I have to speak to Judge Snipes about her case. He's not even family court. He's criminal. And she wants to speak to him about her case. What does a criminal judge know about civil procedures, tort claim? Nothing. Just like he didn't know anything about family case. So he's a senior judge. So evidently, after she spoke to him, or said she was going to speak to him, and he's been calling up all the other judges. There's a whole different thing on him, where he influenced 2 other judges. And to show he might have influenced her, he called up Judge Amiria Aceves and Judge Michael Martin Hoffman and have them send the cases back to family court to tort claims. So the likelihood of him influencing her to recuse herself or dismiss the case is very high. Allowing unauthorized participant from family court attorneys, canon rule B37. I didn't even know there was a canon rule on that. But she did it. She had no business. And I even filed a motion and an order to prohibit the interference of other judges unless they filed a motion of appearance and they're representing Victoria Warner. She never signed it. She still let them come on the case and obstruct it. And so we have a list of all the evidence, documentation showing what she's done. I'll take every motion that I filed to stop these people from interfering in the case, all the motions that I filed, the injunctions, the temporary orders, and I'm going to send that to the State Judicial Board. It's going to be a lot of documents. This is not going to be a small complaint against her. Beyond the judicial conduct complaints, I am considering a motion to set aside the recusal. And the one arguing that the recusal was improperly timely to avoid accountability. I have to do a mandamus, the Texas Court of Appeals, arguing that her, I think you have 30 days to do that. I don't know if I can still be able to do that. Civil rights lawsuit, a federal court. Yeah, they say judges can't be sued, right? A federal court under 42 U.S.C. 1983 for deprivation of property without due process. And this is what's going to kill her, because she had a court order that they not take the property, sell it, list it, and they did all of that. And she stood idle by against her own court order and allowed this to happen. So the civil rights lawsuit, which I have to look this deeper, because the federal judges usually try to protect other judges, but I don't know about this. Deprivation of property with due process. Though judges have broad immunity, deliberate refusal to enforce orders may pierce it. This may pierce their immunity, her immunity. But it's not just her I'm going to put on this. I'm going to put the attorneys as well on my ex. Complaint to the state bar. Yeah, this is good. Against the attorney Warner Green Long for knowingly violating the court order. And if the property is already sold, then that's the irreparable harm. She has recused, so the case is being reassigned. They made a limited complaint, and the new judges needs to know about all this history. And here's a little footnote: the fact that I lost my home, the property, while she had an order in place protecting them, and while I was actively filing contempt motion, boy, you got to see the motions that I filed, is extraordinarily serious. This isn't just illegal error. It appears to be complete abandonment of judicial duties, resulting in devastating harm to me. And that's what I'm drafting to the State Judicial Board of Conduct, the State Bar Association. I am going to do a State Bar Association on her too, because she does have a law license. And I did put one more footnote on her recusal. Let's see. Let's see. I want to analyze her recusal to state. Let's see what her recusal. I did analyze her recusal. Okay, let me see if I can go back and get her recusal and analyze it again. So I'm gonna read her recusal for you and show you why it was. Let's see, recusal. Just give me 1 second. We're going to analyze her recusal. Okay. Yeah, so Judge Staci Williams is trying to sidestep this responsibility, because I believe after she spoke to Judge Michael Snipes, he convinced her, this is okay. Let me read her recusal order for you, and then I'll analyze it, and then we'll end this video, because I usually don't do long videos anymore. People get bored fast. So here's her recusal. The recusal said, I'm telling you when, she recused herself first on the 31st of October, 2025. August, September, October. 2 months after she signed the order to get out of it. Order of voluntary recusal. Haven't been advised of the pleading issues. Haven't been advised. Who advised her? Was it Michael Snipes, the same guy that's signing everything? Issues and subject matter of the above reference case. The court finds that they do not suggest that a recusal order should be considered in this case. The court does not harbor any personal bias or prejudice against the movant, who is me, nor that the court lacks impartiality. The court remains able to base its decision on the facts as they develop and to render a fair judgment in this case. Okay? While the court is qualified to participate in this case, the court finds that the interests of judicial economic dictates the court. Judicial economy. And recuse itself from any further proceedings in this case. So I guess judicial economy is that she has a caseload or whatever that is. But that's why she said she's leaving the case. Here's how I analyze the case. The recusal order is highly suspicious and reveals potential bias. And here's why. This is my notes to the Judicial Board of Conduct. Contradicting is the recusal order. The judge says they do not suggest a recusal order should be considered. The court does not harbor any personal bias or prejudice. The court lacks impartiality. The court remains able to base its decision on the facts, and the court is disqualifying from participating in the case. But then, the interests of judicial economy dictate the court recuse itself. Why this makes no sense? Judicial economy means efficiency. Avoid wasting on judicial resources, but recusing herself wastes judicial resources, and a new judge must start over, right? Delays trial again, already delayed since July 2025, requires reassignment and a new judge to learn the case. This is opposed to judicial economy, because now another judge and the clerks and everybody else has to get involved and take the time to file and refile and do motions and come back, and then the judge has to take, this is a very busy judge. I'm telling you, Emily Tolbosky, very busy. She has to take her time, and just want to say because of economic things to send it to a new judge. The real judicial economy would be the judge who knows the case, who issues the orders, who has the evidence of violation, finishing the case herself. That's saving money, right? Which is basically what you say. And what it really suggests, this contradictory language suggests she's recusing to avoid confronting Judge Snipes, because that is the conflicting judge in this case, was calling up all the judge, and he ruled against her order. So now she's in a predicament. How is she going to tell this judge, you violated my court order? And so that's her predicament. A senior family judge who violated her order. Holding contempt hearings on the violation of her order. Taking responsibility for ignoring my contempt motion while I lose my home. Ruling on the fraud case against the attorney Warner and facing accountability for her own pattern of inactions. This evidence is biased. The recusal order itself is proof of improper conduct. In Canon Rule E1, when recusal is required, a judge must recuse if a judge has a personal bias, and here's where they're going to have to go after her. A judge has personal knowledge of disputed evidentiary facts. A judge impartiality may reasonably be questioned. Nobody questioned her. I didn't question her. I didn't file anything questioning her. I trusted her. She admitted none of these apply, yet recused anyway. So Those three things is what the Board of Judicial Conduct is going to look at, and they're going to ask her, which one of these that violates you that you had to recuse yourself? And none does. All right? There's three. The judge must have a personal bias or prejudice. So she said she doesn't have a personal bias or prejudice. That's her signature. The judge has a personal knowledge of the dispute of evidence. She never said that she did. And the judge impartiality may be reasonably be questioned. She said none of that exists. So then why are you recusing yourself? Because she thinks this is a pro se guy. He doesn't know about this stuff, you know. And the real reason, not stated, she doesn't want to deal with the mess she created by ignoring the violations. She doesn't want to confront Judge Snipes for violating her court order. She may have improper relationships with the defendant's attorney. She wants to avoid ruling on my fraud case against the attorney Victoria Warner. So these are all judicial attacks, not attacks, these are all judicial responsibilities. And one of the things that I'm doing this for is to try and see whether or not the State Judicial Board of Conduct, the Superior Court, the federal court, or anybody can hold these judges accountable. That is the reason for this when we find this. Judge, and here's part of my complaint. Judge Williams claimed that judicial economy yet require recusal is contradictory to the bias, the basic logic. Recusal at this stage forces a new judge to learn the complexity. This is a complex case. This is not a simple case. You got to see the things that are filed. Waste all the time Judge Williams spent on the previous hearing, because now the new judge has to start over. Prevent the judge who issued the violation order from enforcing them. She's trying to dodge enforcing her order because it's going to conflict with Judge Michael Snipes, the senior judge. Judicial economy, which requires Judge Williams to complete the case she started, enforce her own order, hold a contempt hearing on the violation she witnesses, and I have all that filed. Conduct the April trial she scheduled. So I can go on and on. And there's just a whole bunch of things here. The timing, the evidence. She recused only after her order was violated. I lost my home. She failed to act on contempt. The damage was done. Trial was approaching when she had to face these issues. And there's certain language. This is suspicious because I didn't ask her to recuse. Normally, there has to be a motion from either side, the defendant or the plaintiff. Judge, you have to recuse yourself. Nobody asked her to recuse herself. This was a self-inflicted recusal. She decided on her own to abandon her case. She abandoned her case right before the trial, after allowing violations of her order. And why she ignored multiple contempt motion, while she allowed the defendant, this is the question for the courts, why she allowed the defendant to violate her July 31st and August 14th order, while she failed to prevent the sale of the property central to the fraud case before her parent coordination with Judge Snipes, a pattern of favoritism towards the defendant. And then all the rest is just how I framed all of this: the abandonment, a motivation, due process. I have a right to the judge who issued the protective order, enforcing those orders. Recusal deprived me of my rights. So, this is my final statement. To the Judicial Board of Conduct, the recusal order, Exhibit A, showing that Judge Staci Williams knows her conduct was improper, but is trying to escape responsibility rather than remedy the harm she caused. That's it. That's the State Judicial Board of Conduct. I've set the foundation for you. I've shown you what I'm going to be filing, what she did, what she didn't do. And this is a serious violation. And this judge has no business being on the bench for doing this kind of nonsense. There's bias, there's prejudice, there is abandonment, there is all kind of violations she had committed, federal law, due process. And this is what Texas Justice Review was built for. When we find judges like this, we go after them. And we make sure that they're removed from office either by the powers that can do it or by the voters. Voters need to know this, and that's why we're going to publish this kind of stuff. This is Serrano Keith Baldio. Don't forget to support and to like and to, no matter what platform we are, subscribe and keep following us. We got other judges just the same. When I finish this complaint to the State Judicial Board of Conduct and I have it notarized and I'm mailing it out, I'll do another video to add all the other stuff that I missed. It's a 50-minute video already, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.